Joining us now with his own ideas on immigration reform, Austin area Congressman and House Homeland Security Committee Chairman Michael McCaul. Good to see you again.
Hey, thanks for having me, Karina.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you. First off, I just wanted to get your take on President Trump saying that he's open to finding a pathway to citizenship for Dreamers. What is your take on that?
Well, I've had meetings in the White House with the President over the last several weeks, if not months. And the most recent meeting, we came out with a very constructive 4 pillars that we need to address. If we're working on a DACA fix, I think that's important. The President has asked Congress to do that because Congress has the constitutional authority to do that. But we also want border security with that. We want to end what's called chain migration, and also this lottery system that is sort of a random lottery that's not merit-based, but just by whatever number you draw out of the hat. So why is that so important? Well, we had 2 terror attacks in New York that were the result of both chain migration and the lottery system. We need to better protect the United States from threats, whether it be drug traffickers, human traffickers, MS-13, or potential terrorists. So we believe that we can come to a bipartisan fix for DACA and for these children. And at the same time, we want to have security measures in place to ensure that we don't have another DACA situation 5 years down the road. We want to fix that problem now so we don't have it later on.
The bill that you introduced after that bipartisan meeting with all of the members does not include a pathway to citizenship. So are you on board with what the President could be calling for?
Well, we're going to be having those discussions with General Kelly. I know he's on the Hill today. And in our bill, we just don't create a special pathway.
Right.
It doesn't mean that they can't become citizens. Through the normal process of, say, marrying a U.S. citizen or employer-sponsored, they can become U.S. citizens. We just don't create a special pathway for a special class of citizens. Of course, the President has come out with this announcement, and we'll be having those kind of discussions on the Hill. This is all going to come to a head, as you know, in March when the program expires. Congress will be under a deadline to fix this.
Some talk about extending it. Do you see that being a possibility? Do you see that happening?
Well, I'd like to do this right. Congress always makes mistakes when we rush things, we rush legislative products, and so I think it needs to extend it to get a better solution to all of this, then so be it. I know a lot of Texans in my district have been talking about the border for a long time. We need a border security solution. My bill that passed out of my committee, I think, provides that security on our Texas-Mexico and U.S.-Mexico southwest border, as well as Canada, that we, I think, need to fix once and for all.
Yeah, you mentioned kind of the 4 pillars, but getting some ideas for that legislative framework the White House is expected to unveil on Monday for immigration reform, border security. Trump saying he'll propose $25 billion for building a wall and $5 billion for other security measures. How necessary is that $25 billion? I know your bill, it includes other things, but called for $30 billion.
Well, yeah, my bill authorizes, I think, what the Department of Homeland Security and Border Patrol tell me what they need, and also I think what the President has come out supporting. 25, basically, we have border and port security we have to look at. We're looking at physical barriers, including some sort of wall barrier system. We're also looking at the technology piece is critical down there. A lot of this can be done in a smart, effective way with technology, and then also boots on the ground. We need personnel down there to be able to apprehend what's coming in. That's the Homeland Security bill that I passed. The Judiciary Committee has passed this Interior Enforcement that really deals with what the Secretary calls the loopholes, the legal loopholes in the system, so that when an illegal is apprehended at the border, in many cases they can't be deported or expedited removal because they're from countries other than Mexico. So we want to treat people the same way we treat people from Mexico crossing, and that would provide for an expedited removal. Right now they get a notice to appear in court, and about 90+% do not show up to that court hearing. So there are these legal loopholes we want to address in the system so we can effectively fix it once and for all.
How do you see the negotiations continuing to go with the Democrats? I mean, obviously, what we saw with the shutdown, concerned about another shutdown, or do you think that they can get on board with, if there's a DACA deal in place, this money going for the border wall?
I'm the eternal optimist. Now, this is a very challenging topic. I've seen the other side of the aisle move in certain areas like border security. One thing that is an agreement that I found on the Hill and at that meeting was their support for my border security bill. And so it was introduced by John Cornyn in the Senate. So every version, whatever we're looking at that involves immigration reform along with the border, all those bills I've seen floating around include my border security bill. And that's what I'm most interested in, but also finding a fix for these DACA kids.
I wanted to change topics just a little bit. Human Trafficking Prevention Month. I know that you're in town talking to some groups about this and ways to better combat it. What are you hearing? What are you seeing with how things are going in terms of trying to better prevent this?
Well, Karina, it's really the human slavery of our lifetime. It's one of the saddest things I've seen. I was a federal prosecutor and as chairman of Homeland Security, I passed a bill out of the Congress to authorize the Blue Campaign in the Department of Homeland Security, which coordinates with state and local law enforcement, intelligence, but also the private sector, like these trucking associations, the hotels and lodges. What we've seen, whether they're coming from Central America or whether they're impacted in areas like Austin, where at the high schools, these traffickers pick these young women out of school or off the streets and put them into a form of human slavery where they get caught up in sex trafficking and drug addiction and an endless cycle that they can't seem to break out of. We do have a national hotline. We're up if anyone sees signs of human trafficking or the sex trade to report this to the national hotline. And of course, the Blue Campaign at the Department of Homeland Security. I'm very engaged with them. It's a nationwide program. This is an epidemic across the country. We only have more than maybe 300 beds available nationwide for these victims. There are a lot of good things happening, but unfortunately, this is a huge human tragedy. And that's why this awareness campaign is just so important to put, an end to this and to stop it. I think it's one of the most really worst things I've seen when you're talking about children, really, 12 to 15 years old being exploited in this kind of way.
Congressman McCaul, we'll get you back in soon to talk more. Thanks so much for stopping by the studio.
Thanks, Karina.
And coming up next,